Discovery in the graveyard. The distress beacon had been screaming for 3 hours when Captain Zara Chun finally gave the order to shut it down. There was no point anymore. They were too far into the dead zone, that cursed stretch of space between the hegemony borders and the frontier colonies where ships went to die. No rescue would come here. No sane pilot would risk it. Zara floated through the damaged corridors of the merchant vessel Persistent Dream, her magnetic boots clicking against warped metal floors. The attack had come without warning. Raiders, probably Caliph pirates judging by their weapon signatures, had torn through their shields like tissue paper. They'd escaped, barely, with a blind jump that left them here among the bones of 1,000 dead ships. "Captain, you need to see this." Commander Vex's voice crackled through the comm. The Altarian's usually calm tone carried an edge of something Zara couldn't quite place. Fear? Wonder? She made her way to the observation deck, where Vex stood with the rest of her mixed-species crew. Through the cracked viewport, an impossible sight stretched before them. Ships, hundreds of them, maybe thousands, drifted in a slow ballet of death. Some were ancient, their designs predating the current star charts. Others looked fresh, as if they'd died yesterday. "It's a graveyard," whispered Toke, their Mendari navigator, his forearms wrapped protectively around himself. "The largest I've ever seen." "Scans show at least 3,000 vessels," reported Helix, the ship's Signari. Science officer, her feathered crest flattening against her skull in distress. Multiple species, multiple eras. This battle, it must have been apocalyptic. Zara studied the debris field with a practiced eye. Something was off about the distribution pattern. The ships weren't randomly scattered like most battle sites. They formed almost deliberate clusters, as if they were protecting something. She said aloud, "Look at the formation. These ships died defending a position." "Captain," a new voice interrupted. Zara turned to see Kai Martinez, their human systems engineer, standing in the doorway. Where the rest of the crew looked defeated, his eyes held something else entirely. Excitement. "Mr. Martinez, unless you have good news about our engines." "Better," Kai said, holding up a data pad. "I've been analyzing the wreckage." "Captain, do you know what's out there?" "That's not just any battlefield. That's Thermopylae Station's last stand." The bridge went silent. Every spacer knew the legend. Thermopylae Station, humanity's first deep space colony, destroyed 300 years ago in the First Convergence War. The humans had held the line against impossible odds. Their cobbled-together fleet buying time for billions to evacuate. "That's impossible," Vex said. "The location of Thermopylae was lost." "Was," Kai interrupted, his grin widening. "But we found it. And Captain, those aren't just wrecks out there. That's 3 centuries of perfectly preserved human engineering. Military grade. Top-shelf stuff that was legendary, even when it was new." Zara felt a chill run down her spine. "Kai, our ship is dying. The hull is compromised. Engines are at 12%. Life support is failing. We need repairs, not a history." "Lesson. That's exactly what I'm offering," Kai said, his fingers dancing across the data pad. "Captain, what if I told you we don't need to repair the Persistent Dream? What if we could build something better?" Helix chirped in disbelief. "Build? With what facilities? What materials?" "With the greatest junkyard in the galaxy spread out before us," Kai replied. "Look, I know it sounds crazy, but humans have been doing this forever. We call it kit bashing. Taking parts from different sources and making them work together. Different species technologies aren't compatible," Beck stated flatly. "The power systems alone aren't compatible according to standard procedures." Kai countered, "But humans didn't conquer a third of the galaxy by following standard procedures. We did it by making things work that shouldn't work. By being creative when everyone else was being careful." Zara looked at her dying ship's status displays. Hull integrity at 32%. Oxygen production failing. They had maybe 48 hours before systems completely failed. She looked back at the eager human engineer, then at the field of ancient warships. You're talking about salvaging parts from 300-year-old derelicts and somehow making them work with our modern systems, she said slowly. Not just salvaging. Kai sighed. I'm talking about resurrection. Those ships out there? They're not all human. I can see Altarian dreadnoughts, Signari Swiftrunners, even what looks like a hegemony battlecruiser. Different species, different eras, different technologies. But with human improvisation connecting them all, ... It's insane, Pelk said. It's impossible, Helix added. It's our only shot, Zara concluded. She'd served with humans long enough to know that impossible was just their starting point. What do you need? Kai's grin could have powered a small station. Every able body we can spare, every cutting tool we have, and about 20 EVA suits. Oh, and Captain? You might want to start thinking of a name for our new ship. We don't have a new ship yet, Vex reminded him. We will, Kai said with absolute certainty. Trust me, this is what humans do best. We take broken things and make them better. We find solutions where others see only problems. And right now, we're standing in the middle of the greatest kit-bashing opportunity in galactic history. As the crew began mobilizing, Zara found herself staring at one particular wreck. It was massive, easily 3 times the size of their current vessel. The hull was scorched and pocked with weapon impacts, but the superstructure looked intact. She could make out the faded letters on its side. U. East Defiant Resolve. That one, she said, pointing. We start with that one. Kai followed her gaze, and his eyes lit up. A Wolverine-class heavy cruiser. Good eye, Captain. Those things were built like mountains. Perfect foundation for what I have in mind. Which is something that's never existed before, Kai said. A ship made from the best parts of every species' engineering, held together by human stubbornness and creativity. The raiders who attacked us, they think we're dead out here. They have no idea what we're about to build. As the salvage teams prepared to launch, Zara felt something she hadn't experienced since the attack. Hope. It was insane, probably impossible, and definitely dangerous. But she'd learned long ago that those were the exact conditions under which humans performed miracles. The first salvage team launched 30 minutes later. Kai led them personally, his enthusiasm infectious as he guided them through the debris field. Zara watched from the bridge as they approached the Defiant Resolve. Structural scans coming in, Helix reported. The frame is ... remarkably intact. Whatever killed it didn't breach the main supports. Because Wolverine-class ships were over-engineered to a ridiculous degree, Kai's voice came through the com. The humans who built these assumed they'd take horrible punishment. Every beam, every weld, built to last forever. We've got our foundation, people. Now let's go shopping for parts. Over the next hours, Zara watched her crew transform. The despair that had gripped them after the attack gave way to determination. Even the skeptical Vex began pointing out potentially useful components. Toke used his 4 arms to map salvage routes through the debris field. Helix cataloged every piece of technology they encountered. Captain, you need to hear this. Kai called. I'm inside the Defiant Resolve's engineering section. The main reactor is slag, but the auxiliary power systems, they're intact. 300-year-old fusion generators, and they're still sealed. We can work with this. How is that? Possible? Vex asked. Human paranoia, Kai laughed. Every system has 3 backups, and every backup has a backup. They built these ships expecting them to limp home missing half their mass. We just need to hold on. His voice changed becoming sharp with excitement. "Oh, you beautiful bastards. Kai? Captain, I just found something. The Defiant Resolve's computer core. It's not just intact, it's still running on emergency power. The ship's been maintaining itself for 3 centuries, waiting for someone to wake it up." Zara felt her heart. "Skip, a functioning computer core from a military vessel would have navigation data, tactical systems, maybe even—" "Weapons?" she asked. "Better," Kai said. "Manufacturing templates. The complete database for field repairs and modifications. Captain, this ship has the blueprints for improvised connections between literally hundreds of different systems. The crew of the Defiant Resolve spent their last hours creating a comprehensive guide for exactly what we're trying to do. It's like they knew someone would need it someday." The impossible build the construction began in earnest on Hour 6. Kai had established the Defiant Resolve as their base of operations, its hull becoming the skeleton upon which they would build their chimera. Zara watched from the command deck. They'd managed to restore as her crew worked with a dedication that bordered on obsession. Mounting Altarian shield generators to human power systems, Toke reported, his 4 arms working controls simultaneously. "The connections are ... unconventional." "Unconventional is generous," Vex muttered, reviewing the schematics Kai had drawn up. "This violates every principle of starship design I've ever learned." "And yet it's working," Helix observed, her sensors tracking the power flow. "The efficiency is terrible, perhaps 60% of optimal, but the shields are forming." Kai's voice crackled over the comm from where he worked in the bowels of the ship. 60% of Altarian shields is still twice what we had on the Persistent Dream. Now, who's ready to help me mount a Signari engine pod to a human thrust frame? The work was brutal. Every connection required innovation. Every system demanded compromise. They cut and welded, spliced and soldered, creating joints that no engineer would ever approve, but that somehow, impossibly, held. Kai seemed to be everywhere, at once solving problems with a combination of technical knowledge and sheer audacity. "The power coupling won't fit," one of the Mendari engineers reported. "The hegemony weapon systems requires a completely different input configuration." "Then we make an adapter," Kai replied, already pulling components from 3 different sources. "Look, this Altarian regulator can step down the power, this human military capacitor can store it, and this Signari switching system can regulate the flow. It's ugly, but it'll work." "How do you know?" the engineer asked. "I don't," Kai admitted cheerfully. "But that's never stopped us before." By Hour 18, they had something that vaguely resembled a ship. The Defiant Resolve's hull had been reinforced with armor plating from a dozen sources. Weapon systems from 5 different species bristled from improvised mounting points. The engine configuration was a nightmare of competing technologies that somehow produced thrust. "It looks like a junk heap," Toke observed. "A heavily armed junk heap," Kai corrected, "with shields, weapons, and engines from the best military hardware 7 species ever produced." "Sure, it's not pretty, but—" "Contact!" Helix's alarm cut through the comm. "Multiple vessels dropping from hyperspace. Configuration matches our previous attackers, the Raiders. They'd found them." Zara's blood ran cold. Their Frankenstein ship was barely held together. Half the systems weren't even tested. They had no idea if the weapons would fire, if the shields would hold, if the engines would respond. But there was no choice now. "All hands, battle stations," she commanded, surprised by the calm in her voice. "Whatever happens, it's been an honor." "Captain," Kai's voice came through, steady and confident. "Trust the ship. She may be ugly, but she's ours. And she's got 300 years of human stubbornness built into her bones." The first Raider message came through, dripping with arrogance. "Well, well, The little merchants survived. And what is that monstrosity you're hiding in? No matter. Surrender your cargo, and we might let you live. Zara looked at her mixed-species bridge crew, saw the determination in their eyes. They built this impossible thing together. Human ingenuity had shown them the way, but it had taken all of them to make it real. This is Captain Zara Chun, of the ... double quotes. She paused, then smiled. Of the Kitbash? You want our cargo? Come and take it. The raiders' response was predictable. Weapons fire lanced through space toward them. Zara held her breath as the energy beams struck and scattered across shields that shouldn't exist. Shields holding, Helix reported, amazement in her voice. The mixed generation system is actually creating overlapping defensive fields. It's inefficient, but incredibly resilient. Return fire, Zara ordered. What happened next would become legend in the frontier sectors. The Kitbash unleashed a devastating barrage from weapons that had no business working together. Hegemony plasma cannons fired in sequence with human rail. Guns, Altarian pulse lasers synchronized with Signari ion beams. The targeting was imperfect. The timing was off. But the sheer variety of attack vectors overwhelmed the raiders' defenses. Their shields can't adapt, Vex realized. Each weapon type requires a different defensive configuration. They can't handle them all simultaneously. Human military doctrine, Kai laughed over the comb. If you can't be perfect, be unpredictable. The lead raider ship took a direct hit from a 300-year-old human nuclear torpedo that Kai had somehow managed to revive. The explosion was spectacular, sending debris spinning through space. The other raiders, faced with this impossible opponent, began to retreat, but the Kitbash wasn't done. The mongrel engines, held together by determination and creative welding, roared to life. The ship lurched forward with acceleration that should have torn it apart. Instead, the redundant structural supports from multiple design philosophies distributed the stress in ways no single design could have managed. Pursuing raiders, Zara announced, hardly believing her own words. All weapons, continuous fire. The battle was brief but decisive. The raiders, used to preying on weak merchants, had no answer for a ship that defied every rule of combat. When the last raider jumped to hyperspace, trailing debris and shame, the bridge of the Kitbash erupted in celebration. We did it. Tok sighed, his 4 arms waving in excitement. We actually did it. The ship held together, Vex added, scanning the damage reports. Minor stress fractures, some systems overheating, but nothing critical. This impossible thing actually works. Kai finally appeared on the bridge, covered in grease and burns, grinning like he'd just won the galaxy. So, Captain, what do you think of human engineering now? Zara looked at him, then at her crew, then at the view screen showing their cobbled-together vessel. It was ugly, inefficient, and violated every principle of proper starship design. It was also theirs, built from nothing but salvage and determination, and it had just defeated a superior force. I think, she said slowly, that we need to spread the word. Every ship trapped in the dead zone, every crew facing impossible odds, needs to know what we learned here. You don't need perfect parts or compatible systems. You just need creativity, determination, and a human crazy enough to show you how to kitbash your way to survival. Already uploading the specifications to the emergency beacon, Kai said. Every ship in range will receive the complete tutorial on improvised multi-species system integration. The Defiant Resolve's gift to the galaxy, delivered 300 years late. As the Kitbash limped toward the nearest friendly port, its hybrid engines humming with impossible harmony, word of their survival spread. Ships across the frontier began attempting their own salvage combinations. Most failed, but some succeeded, creating vessels that defied classification but somehow worked. The hegemony engineers called it madness. The military theorists called it impossible. But in the ports and stations, where survival mattered more than theory, they called it something else. The human way. Take what you have, make it work, and never let perfect be the enemy of good enough. Asterisk, and in the dead zone, among the bones of ancient battles, salvagers began to see not graveyards, but opportunities. Each derelict held potential. Each wreck offered solutions. The age of the kitbash had begun, and the galaxy would never be the same. The kitbash itself became a legend, its crew celebrated across a dozen systems. But Zara knew the real hero was the idea itself, that human notion that anything could be made to work with enough creativity and determination. It was messy, inefficient, and absolutely beautiful. As she stood on the bridge of her impossible ship, watching the stars streak by through shields that shouldn't exist, powered by engines that shouldn't work, defended by weapons that shouldn't cooperate, Captain Zara Chun understood why humans had spread so far so fast across the galaxy. They didn't wait for perfect solutions. They built them from whatever was at hand. And sometimes that was exactly what the universe needed. Asterisk.